Because, I mean, it brings balance because a lot of the A plot is Leo and Raph dealing with their tension, you know? And those are some of my favorite scenes as well. As far as favorite scene that's in the movie, everything pretty much leading through the junk shop scene while they're fighting Raph, and then the whole giant fight that happens, like that whole middle part of the movie is huge to me. I just wish they had done without the sound effects and some of the music, but it's really well shot, well choreographed, well executed all around. And I feel like it just kind of weaves in and out of being funny and serious in a really good way. Uh, but that's why I think the music and the sound effects kind of make it too much, because the dialogue and what they're doing physically already kind of handles that.
Yeah.
Like just with the way they're moving and talking, they're balancing the serious and the comedic. You don't need to go over the top with the doink boink zoink kind of nonsense, right? Um, but yeah, that whole scene, right from the part where they jump Raph and the guys are downstairs and they keep cutting back and forth, like it's just such great cinema. Like legitimately. Like no jokes aside, like forget for a second that it's Ninja Turtles. It's just really good filmmaking. And the scene where they throw him through the skylight, like you feel that. Like it's so impactful. Um, you know,
That was pretty much how it was in the Mirage comic. In the Mirage comic, instead of
It's Leo.
yeah, it's Leo. But
Leo.
like in the comic, the characters were like getting stuff ready for Christmas. And I forgot the order. If you I don't know if you remember the comic or not, but I think it was either every page was either three panels of the turtles in April doing normal stuff, with the bottom panel being Leo getting his ass whooped, or the other way around. It was either Leo fighting with one panel of the people doing normal stuff. It was kind of like that. So that
Yeah, have
segue was kind of implied in the comic.
Can't
now.
remember because I said I had. I mean, I had those comments.
That was the Leonardo miniseries because it has
No, I
like
mean,
each turtle.
I know I had some of that stuff. I collected it, but it got lost with all the moving around. So
Mhm.
Yeah, I still
Yeah, because
have.
it was interesting. Each turtle had like their own miniseries, and coincidentally, Raphael's miniseries was how he first met Casey, and how he met Casey was kind of sort of like how it played out in the movie, at least that first
Yeah, like
scene.
that's the thing. It's one of the best comic book adaptations ever made because it does make changes. It does add some things that are a little more in vein of the cartoon, but
Mhm.
some of those scenes are as close. Like the only thing I could think of off the top of my head is Watchmen. As far as translating scenes from a comic to a movie, obviously Watchmen is more one to one about it, but with Ninja Turtles, it's really close, right? I understand why they switched the character from Leo to Raph for the sake of the movie, because like it's sort of like it happens. It's his comeuppance for being such a jerk and acting like he's a big shot and this and that. And it also kind of gets at Leo because he was spiteful towards him and everything. It works for the movie. And in the comic, there's this whole other reason why it has to be Leo, because he's the one who killed Shredder and the whole thing. So it works differently in different canon, different continuity, right? But I get why they changed certain things for the movie. I felt it worked to the movie's benefit in every case. It
Not
wasn't like
only
a
that,
situation.
but in the comics, Leo does go out to train on his own once in a while and whatever. And the movie hasn't had time to establish that. The movie already established that Raphael does go off on his own once in a while, so it makes more sense for him to storm off and get caught, and all that.
I felt like every change they made from the comic book for the movie
it works.
benefited the movie. Yeah, it made the movie better. For
It
the most
works.
part. For the most part. Like, I mean, in the comic, I'll say one change I thought didn't work as well, but I see why they did it. In the comic, obviously, when the rooftop scene, for those who don't know, we know, but for those who might not know, the rooftop scene at the end is basically the end of the first issue of Ninja Turtles. Like the movie takes things from a few different issues of the comic book and kind of mixes the order up and condenses it
Mhm.
timeline wise. So it happens in a much shorter timeline. Um, But yeah, the rooftop fight pretty much is supposed to mimic the tone, at least, of the end of the first issue where they face off with Shredder. And in the comic book, Leo is a lot more competent. It's kind of rough because he's my favorite. In the movie, watching him kind of get handled pretty easily was a little frustrating. He did get his shots in, obviously. He's got the cut in with his sword, so that was cool. But for the most part, he gets tossed around pretty good. So that was a little bit rough to see. But I mean, I kind of get why they changed it for the movie again. But that's one thing where I didn't think it was necessarily better that way. I feel like they could have had any of the turtles get like taken down that way. Like Mikey, it could have been because he's the most emotional one, perhaps. I don't know. But again, that's a selfish thing on my part, right? Because it's my favorite. So, but I will say that's one change. In the comic book, he was a lot more competent during the final fight, but it works. It worked for what they did. Yeah. But as far as translating the Mirage comics, they did a really good job. Changes and all, because they did. You guys know, I'm sure, exactly what kind of things they changed in translating it, but it came together well for the sake of the movie. And ultimately, I think that's the most important thing.
Question for you guys. So, talking about things that were cut out or things they changed, what would you have like put back in aside from the cut scenes? Like, what would you put back in? Like, for me personally, I would have put back in. I would have redone everything where it's supposed to be the Mikey Raph thing. Mikey being upset, he's the emotional one. And April was talking about, but they kind of glossed over what Michelangelo was doing at the farmhouse, but you see the scenes of Mikey. But of course, they edited it so that would be Raph, and probably they only did that because, Mikey's the cool one. He's not allowed to have feelings outside of being happy. But that's something I really wish they would have just left alone and to show that Mikey does have other facets to his character. I'm a Mikey kind of fan for that. And like I said, they were setting it up at the beginning of the movie with the conversation with Donnie, but they couldn't follow through with it because they cut it out because they made it Raph being the upset one, as opposed to being Mikey letting off the steam, the aggression because they don't know how to handle his emotions.
Yeah, like
everything happened with Splinter.
And the thing I didn't catch, like how obvious it was until we saw it again, because it's the big theater as opposed to your TV. Like that whole scene where he's on top of the roof, the farmhouse, and it's like Splinter, like dub in Rap's voice. You can still see the fucking nunchucks.
Right.
You can still tell it's supposed to be Michelangelo.
That's exactly what I was gonna say. As a kid, it could kind of slip by you, but there was no mistaking it this time. It's exactly what I was gonna say. It's clearly Mikey up there. But that was a studio edit where they're like, no, we don't want to see Mikey upset, even though, as you said, Wendy, the movie's kind of leading up to it the whole time. But then the studio was like, nah, we want Mikey just to be the jokey, silly guy. We don't want to see him have depth or emotion. So they changed Raph's voice. They dubbed Raph's voice in for that scene, even though it's clearly Mikey.
Yeah, because also the turtles clearly have different shaped heads in the movies. And that's Michelangelo, dude.
But of course, as a kid, I almost missed it because
you can really tell with these NECA action figures. You could tell the different shaped heads. Like that's something that really stands out. Couldn't wait to get these on camera. I actually have the.
Is that just Leo and Dom, or you got all four?
Well, I have all four separately, but this was just something I picked up at the flea market for a cheap. So it was there, so I bought it. But yeah, I have the four individually when they first came out. But yeah, the way they did the sculpting on these, you could totally see the differences in the head shapes and everything like that. Like, there's no mistaking them. Even if they all had red bandanas, you'd still be able to tell who was who.
That's cool. Yeah, so I was wondering, so anybody else felt like things you would have you wish they would have just kept as opposed to them, the studios making them change it or, and like for me, like I mentioned, I wish it would have kept the Mikey stuff. I really would have appreciated that. Because I like characterization, I like character growth, I like development. And that's one thing I liked about this movie. They actually had development, But Mikey was stagnant.
Everybody's got a little arc. Even Charles and Danny Pennington in the background. Like everybody's got a little arc going on. Like all the characters have a little bit of something, right? Casey's got a storyline, and Danny's got a storyline, and Charles has a storyline, and April has a storyline. In wrestling, this is what we just call good booking, right?
Yeah.
You make everybody in the show feel like an important part of the show. And the movie does that, right? There's very few characters who are extraneous. Even the minor characters who have speaking roles tend to be characters who recur throughout the movie, right? So even the minor characters, they kind of feel important just by the fact that they show up and talk multiple times. So they're minor characters, but they feel like they matter in a sense because you see them and hear them. So everybody in the movie kind of feels like they've got something going on. And that's something I think they don't really get enough credit for. Like some people say that it could have focused more on just turtles. I get that. I don't necessarily agree. I think maybe if there was another half hour to the movie, which by the way I would have loved, I think that would have been plausible. I wouldn't have minded seeing more of the turtles, but I feel like everything comes together well ultimately with what we see. I feel like the only thing wrong with the movie really is that there's not more of it, and that leads into your question. I really wish they could have finished filming that scene of the fight in the field. Obviously, that would have been a really big scene for the movie. More realistically, since they probably didn't finish filming that, but that would be my number one choice. I would say if they could finish it, if we had the power to like finish stuff and put it back in the movie, I would have had them finish that scene and put it back in with Leo
Yeah,
and the
that
guys.
sounds like that would have been a really, really good scene because it makes sense instead of them just like what a couple of seconds of training and all of a sudden we're ready to go back.
Yeah, I mean
Okay.
that would have tied everything together. Like, because the whole point is he tells them like, you've learned to fight like as one and everything like that. But we really don't see that, right? So that scene would have really added a lot. But if we didn't have the power to film new stuff, then realistically, I would just say put in the scene of Casey in his apartment watching TV because they already
Mhm.
filmed that. It was just cut for like time, right? So that would be my other option. That would be
Mhm.
like the realistic option. So I got my like wish list answer and my realistic answer.
Yeah, the
And those are like all the
tension.
scenes. I can't think of any that I would have wanted to like not put in. Like the scene with Michelangelo, the scene where Shredder actually had like the thing where the foot were supposed to like try to practice and see if they could take off his little bandana and they all fail and all that
Yeah.
stuff. Like, they should have kept that in.
Which again,
That would be a good introduction.
Mhm.
we saw the overhead shot at the anniversary screening, but as they said, they didn't finish filming that scene. So that's another one where if they had finished filming it and they had more than just the overhead shot, because clearly there was supposed to be a lot more of it. It wasn't supposed to just be this 5 second thing where they just boom, boom, go down like that. I'm sure there was supposed to be like, a lot more going on. That definitely would have been a cool thing to add in if they filmed it for
There
sure.
was also a scene, but I don't know if that works. I don't know. I think it worked better in the like the theatrical cut, but there was supposed to be a scene early in the movie when April was kind of like, going, but before she makes it to the van, she walks past, I guess, the river and the turtle shells like pop up or something.
Just
I
the
I
water.
don't know that part. Like, I like the intro. I know it's supposed to be kind of like leading up to it, but I could have done without that. So I guess I'm glad that made it to the did make it on the cutting room floor or whatever.
That was in like one of the early trailers for the movie. They showed the shells floating in the water.
Yeah.
First TV trailers, yeah.
But I
But
like
yeah,
the way the movie did it though. Just have them show up whenever they busted the lamp and
With
start
the
fighting
side.
April. Yeah.
Yeah, with Raph style.
Fighting the crooks or whatever.
how about our guest? How about any scenes that aren't in the movie that they could have put back in?
I never read the comics, so I wouldn't really know, but what you guys are saying about Casey in the beginning, it would have been really good to see that in the movie. Like instead of just throwing him in there, you would have seen him like watching April on the news.
Yeah, like if you for those who haven't seen it, like yourself, it's they filmed it and it was just something they cut for nebulous reasons, but it works really well. It's just subtle. He's
Hmm.
just sitting there in his dark apartment, and his mask is sitting there in the foreground, and you just see him in the glow of the TV screen, and he's changing channels, and he's just getting more and more angry, and you see the snarl creep up on his face.
Well, yeah, because every channel is like reports of violence, more crime, more this, more that. You know, so he was getting angry. You know,
And the mask comes into focus, and then like they cut to something else, and it's like, so it's introduced like the whole thing, what's going to happen. It's a nice way of really giving you his whole backstory really quickly in like 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And I would have loved to have seen that back in realistically, like I said, because they filmed it. They probably would have cut back and forth a little bit. What we saw obviously was the single shot of just him. What they probably would have done would be show snippets of the newscasts, and they cut back and forth to his reaction. And they probably only needed to add that in. So the full scene would have been probably like a minute. And it would have been neat to see.
Theory. I have a theory. I have a really silly theory. Okay, so the reason they had to cut the scene and the fact that Casey watches so much television, they're talking about the crime and everything, because it would have made his reaction to April, whoa, who's the babe? He should have been able to recognize that she's the woman that does all the newscasting, the star reporter,
To be fair, it was kind of dark in there during the
Hey,
fight.
that's why I said it's a theory. I'm making some mess up, and I'm giving them some rationalization for why they had to cut that scene. Honestly, I really wish they could have kept that.
Yeah. How about you, Johnny Rodriguez? Anything they could have put back in that you would have loved to see?
Okay, so I personally haven't seen the 35th anniversary version of the movie in theaters, so I can't really but I think just in general, like any scene that was cut in the original, like just like how they have it now at the 35th anniversary that they included those scenes, I think it should have been like that from the get-go, from the beginning. Back in the day when we first released the movie in theaters.
Supposedly the new 4K disc that's coming out is going to have some of these deleted scenes. Supposedly. We'll see what actually happens. It would be great to have them out there for everybody to see.
You know
That
what?
was
I just realized something. I don't even know what happened to my copies of the movies because I did have them on DVD. And with all the moving around, I did take them with me to Japan. I think they got lost in transit there.
I got them because
I still have the first edition copies of when they all first came out on DVD. Because back then I was going to Best Buy like all the time.
Oh gosh, I lived at Best Buy. That was always shut up and take my money moments. That's why I had to keep myself from going.
Check it out. I have the this is how old it is. It's one of those DVDs with the little black plastic flip thing that you had to open.
Yeah, mine used to do that. I mean, that's how mine was.
I had all three movies like individually, and unfortunately, with all the moving and whatever, they got warped, which I never. I mean, I've heard of it, but I've never seen an actual warped CD. So they died. But I think for either my birthday or Christmas, someone bought me like a 3-pack set of all three movies. So hey, I got them back and everything. I just have to check them to see if I hope they're okay because I never knew CDs have fucking lifespans and shit.
I mean, they do need to be stored in a weather controlled area. It's rough. You always take a risk with that stuff. I'm grateful for what I still have. I could probably get ones in better quality. This one's so old. Remember how some of them they used to have, especially kids movies. This one's got the sewer maze game. You play with your remote control. Remember, you go up, down, left, right, that kind of nonsense. But yeah,
I remember if you got like the original, I don't know how many frames or whatever, but we got the original DVD of the first X-Men movie. So at that time DVDs were new. They had little intro thing at the beginning about like DVDs. You could like search different scenes. There's behind the scene features. You don't have to rewind and all that kind of shit because it's like, the new technology, but so weird now, you know what I mean?
now that's a question I had real quick. Because we were talking about things that we wish would have gone back in. Now, here's the one most notorious deleted piece of the movie, which those of us who got to see the 35th anniversary screening, it's the first thing we saw, the famous mythical original ending of Ninja Turtles, the scene where April and Danny are at the comic book editor's office pitching them the idea of Ninja Turtles as a comic book. He tells them it's too far-fetched. The turtles are hanging outside the window of the office. April and Danny start cracking up. Mikey falls from the window. They catch him.
Oh,
That was
it also says far-fetched, like.
It was the original ending of the movie that they cut because they felt Cowabunga was a stronger ending piece. So how do we feel about that? How do we feel? Do we think that scene should be in the movie, or is it just a little too much?
No, it should be in the movie, but as a post-credit or mid-credit scene.
They didn't, to be fair, they didn't do that back then. So it wouldn't
more
have,
or less. I mean, the Master
Right,
Universe
right.
movie had one.
Right,
The
right.
Star Universe movie had some.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like nowadays. I mean,
ideally, you're 100% right. That is what they should have done in a perfect world had they considered it. Had more movies done it back then, because you're right, there was a few that did. Massive Universe was one of my most notorious
I don't
examples.
think Skeeter's coming back.
Hey, it's still, he plays the long game, brother. If you know anything about him. But yeah, so I definitely think in a perfect world, mid-credit scene, that would have been perfect. Like when they cut between songs, like when Turtle Power ends, or when whatever song ends and they go to the next one, they could have cut away to that scene real quick and then cut back to the credits.
Mhm.
Perfect world, that would have been ideal. Because I feel like it's a scene that deserves to be seen, wink, but I think as the ending of the movie, I think they made the right choice to end it on Cowabunga. I think that was a better place to end it. But I still feel like the scene itself.
But you're telling me that bitching wasn't cool enough?
I mean, hey, in a perfect world.
Can you imagine that? They're trying to come up with stuff, and Splinter's like, I've always liked bitching.
All right, have fun. Bitching.
Oh no.
I've been so messed up.
I made a funny, and I made the parents angry.
That's why we have Vanilla Ice in the second movie.
Yeah, I definitely think that watching it again, I feel like even though it's dated, I feel like a lot of the humor still kind of works. It's definitely corny, but
Oh.
at the time, it was a little more timely. So, like the Vanna White reference and all that stuff was a little bit more,
Moonlight and all that, yeah.
a little more on point. But for people like us of a certain age, they still hit. I know it meant nothing to the little kid sitting 2 rows behind us. No pop for any of it. But what are you gonna think? I know she knew a little bit about the turtles because at various scenes, like when Casey showed up, she'd start talking to her dad about like stuff she knew from some of the cartoons. So I know that there was some connection there, but no connection to the movie. So, but it's neat to see like some of it being brought up and passed on. But like I said before, I know from experience that these younger generations, they don't really stick with the stuff like we did, unfortunately. Um, you know, I find that kind of unfortunate and a shame, but we were just brought up different. Like, we got more emotionally invested into these things. I mean, here we are still talking about it, right?
Probably.
So I feel like something's been lost generationally. And I feel bad about that, but it is what it is. But yeah, there's definitely some heat still there because I mean they're still making these action figures and all this other stuff from that movie. Now that's something I want to talk about real quick too, is for as big a success as the movie was, one thing we didn't get at the time, and we had to wait for the second movie, was action figures.
Really?
Didn't you guys think that was kind of weird?
Figures.
When the movie came out, there weren't any action figures. Not for the first one. Didn't you guys think that was weird?
Yeah. Good.
Well, for a person like me, I wouldn't have noticed because I was never into action figures. If it wasn't stuffed and cute, I didn't want it. My younger cousin had all that stuff, so I just paid attention to what they had. And I remember the commercials. But
Then
I did not know
when the second movie came out, Playmates released Movie Star Turtles, which I did a action figure review of the re-release Playmates movie Ninja Turtles on my From the Vault Rikki Roxx Retro action figure review channel. Check that out on YouTube.
Hello. Yep.
So I reviewed the 4 re-release movie Star Turtles, but those were released for the second movie initially. They also looked nothing like the movie, as I pointed out in my From the Vault Rikki Roxx Retro action figure review. I pointed out that the turtles in those figures actually looked more like the Cracked magazine version of the turtles, if you remember. Like you'd see like Mad Magazine and Cracked Magazine at the grocery store, and they would be making fun of the Ninja Turtles, and they'd like have their tongues sticking out, and they were all goofy looking. That's what those action figures look like. They don't look like the way the turtles looked in the movie. You know what I'm saying?
What I didn't like is that each sequel they would get more and more spots.
Yeah. But the action figures, like
Yeah,
the
the action figures look like they got fucking measles. They went overboard with the dots. And
Well, I mean,
I hated that in the third. I don't know why, even as a kid, it irked me that in the third movie they even made a reference to it because one of the turtles fell. So, oh, even my spots hurt, and I'm like, oh fuck, don't reference the fucking spots.
yeah, they went way too far with it. But to be fair, by that point, they might have just been copying those action figures because they went way overboard with that. And on the NECA figures, like you see them, but they're a lot more subtle. Like they're just like
Yeah,
darker.
the first movie they had some, but it was very subtle.
the costumes are best in the first movie too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They definitely had to pare things down a little bit for the second one. Third one, obviously, they weren't made by the Henson Company, so
Oh God, the
yeah, that's
trouble.
frogs, and they were all like goofy looking.
Oh.
Now, the third one, I definitely feel gets a lot more hate than it necessarily deserves. It definitely could be better, but I feel for one thing, if the suits were better, people would be more forgiving. It looks bad.
Yes,
For a
it does.
For a movie, because it's a visual medium, like it's kind of like wrestling, right? Like it doesn't matter what you do as long as it looks good. If what you do looks bad, people are going to notice. You know, if what it doesn't matter if what you do isn't fancy. If it looks good, people will forgive it. If it looks bad, they're going to shit all over it. It doesn't matter if it's ambitious.
They didn't
But-
even finish Splinter. They always had Splinter like behind a window or behind something because they didn't have like this whole thing in the third movie.
Had to do the top puppet. Like I said, if what you do is bad, people won't care if it's ambitious. They're just going to shit all over. You know, and it really parallels to wrestling. Wrestling and movies have a lot in common.
The story for the third movie wasn't all that good either. Like I said, they could have. I mean, I liked the premise of it being in that time period, but even like me and my cousin would say, why didn't they base it on maybe the formation of the Foot Clan and do a story like that? I mean, the cartoon itself did it, so why couldn't they just done it for the movie?
That's an excellent point that many people have brought up about the third movie. As I said, the second movie doesn't feel like a good follow-up to the first movie, but the third movie especially just feels like some shit that happened. It doesn't connect to the first two at all. Like it feels like if it was like a Netflix series or something, this would be episode 8, right? That's what the third movie feels like. Just
For
a
me, it
random.
feels like it was, and I don't know if it's true or not, but my personal headcanon is it was meant to be some time travel movie of XYZ, and I guess whatever they didn't want to lose the script. We need some way to make this hit. Oh, you know what? Put the turtles in it or something.
Mhm.
That's as believable as anything. Because, like, as people have said, as a story and as like a Ninja Turtles adventure, it's not really bad in and of itself. But following up from the first two movies, there's no connective tissue other than Paige Turco as April. She's the only connective tissue between
Bringing
all.
back Casey.
Corey
Oh
Feldman.
gosh, that's the other thing I hated. The fact that Casey had nothing to do but to babysit those Japanese samurai dude and Baltimore with Tarzan boy. I mean,
It was
seriously.
it was great to see him, and then yeah, he doesn't really do anything. That was unfortunate. Yeah, so there was a little connective tissue, but it ended up just leaving you feeling let down because you wanted more from it, you know? I don't necessarily think it's as bad as people say it is, but I feel like it definitely it would have worked better if it was scripted a lot differently. Like you said, having it be about the origins of the Foot Clan, for example, would have I hadn't even thought of that, but that's such a great way that could have tied everything together, right? They could have referenced stuff that happened in the first movie, you know, and tied it back up to the very beginnings of everything. That's such a brilliant idea. They should have had you make the fucking movie.
Saying this back then at the time, because I said the cartoon it had a couple of episodes about the origins of the Foot Clan and stuff. So and then we had the Turtles in Time game. So I was just waiting for like some connection to even like something like that. And then we got boring guy that wants to sell weapons to the Japanese guy. I don't know. I just fell
I
asleep
mean,
on the movie.
it's
I
pretty.
actually fell asleep.
Yeah. Now, one thing I do want to say, guys, just extra news I found out recently is that I think maybe February or so of this upcoming year, they do intend to re-release The Secret of the Ooze in theaters again.
In March,
So
March, I believe. I think it's March. Yeah, I was
yeah,
gonna hope you
so
were bringing it up.
yeah, because if we all watch it, I do want to do a podcast with that, and whoever else could bring along, like William or Jack or whoever.
I didn't
But
get
that's
to
me.
see that in movies either as a kid because my parents don't take me to see no turtles. But I remember I really, really, really wanted to see it. It's like, oh, I really like the first movie. Saw that on the video.
Yeah,
Well,
now
I'll stop.
that one we did get to see in theaters. My brother and I, one of our friends took us to see it. So that one we did get like the full theatrical experience. And I didn't remember the most about that movie was we were gonna go eat after the movie, and I forgot what was the original plan. But after the movie had that whole pizza montage, everyone eating pizza, we're like, yeah, we're getting some pizza after this and everything.
Well, my favorite story related to the second Ninja Turtles movie is hanging out in the locker room in Brick, New Jersey, with Kevin Nash, aka Super Shredder. I was working semi main, I think, that night, or I forget where on the card I was, but yeah, Big Kev was there, and I know you met him. I know you met him. You met him and Scott together, I think.
Yep.
Oh, God, I wish I could have.
Yeah, but to be fair, I mean, we were barely talking back then. I didn't know you that well back then.
Well, I'll tell you. I mean, meeting him is one thing. I have had the good fortune because I got friends in high places, brother. I've had the good fortune of having hung out with him a couple times, had dinner with him, hung out in the locker room with him a few times, and can honestly say that he's one of the most sincere guys, just one of the best all around guys that I've ever been around in the business. And, you know, I was very lucky to have been able to talk to him and spend as much time with him as I did. But yeah, we did talk a little bit about that experience he had doing that movie. And yeah, so he filmed those scenes, those Super Shredder scenes. That was like a 3-day weekend, basically. They did the whole thing. Friday, Saturday, Sunday. They were in and out. I asked him about that specifically. And then so this would have been like 2012 when we were hanging out in the locker room. And so I said, I was like, so like 3 days of work? He's like 2.5. Yeah. Like, that's crazy. Like, oh yeah. And I'm like, they take care of you? He's like, oh yeah. And I'm like, money. I'm like, so I mean, like, what, residuals? Oh yeah, for sure. I'm like, I mean, how much? Like, by now? Yeah, 10, 20, like, grand. He's like, no, no. Like, what, 10, 20 million? He's like, brother, They just put out another box set. Those fucking DVDs, man. Every 3 months, I get a check. I go to the mailbox. They call it mailbox money. Every 3 months, I go to my mailbox and I get a check for that movie, like 10, 15 grand. Like Jesus Christ. It's like, oh yeah, they keep putting it out there. I keep making money. So, and that's the craziest thing is that out of everybody involved in the entire trilogy of movies, nobody's made more money off of them than Kevin Nash. And he's in that one movie for 2 minutes that they filmed over a 3-day weekend. Oh, yeah, yeah. He made more than Vanilla Ice, I'm sure. I'm sure he made more than Vanilla Ice. I don't think Vanilla Ice had as good an agent as Kevin Nash did. Because what I'm pretty sure happened was that when Nash was working for Turner back in 97, 98, what I'm pretty sure happened there was he re-signed for better residuals because there was a New Line Cinema movie which was under Turner. So I think that's what happened. But yeah, either way, he got his piece of the pie, brother. God bless him. Oh, there it is. That's awesome. I love that with the fucking video game graphic.
Yep.
Yeah,
But
my
then-
Xbox.
Yep. But anyways, guys, I think we're gonna probably wrap it up for now. I think we kind of covered most of our points and things and our favorite scenes. You guys want to go real quick and mention your favorite turtle, whether the movie or other versions or whatever, real quick.
I like Angelina.
Okay, my favorite turtle was always Donatello because I love purple. And because he was just really smart. So, yeah.
I don't know. Personally, I kind of liked all the turtles, but if I were to choose one, maybe Leonardo because he seems to be like the more like well balanced one out of all the turtles.
Me?
Yeah. For me, it's always Michelangelo, but I always like Michelangelo when he's portrayed more as just a chill, laid back, kind of silly, goofy turtle, but not like the stupid turtle. Because that's the thing I like about the newer versions. The newer versions go with the, being dumb is funny. The funny one is the dumb one. So I don't like that humor where he's portrayed as a dumbass. Because even Michelangelo from the 80s cartoon was never like, he was never the dumbass. He wasn't
I
annoying.
mean, yeah,
He was chill.
Raph would like say he's dumb, but it's more like banter type,
Yeah.
type way, not like seriously.
Yeah, he was just chill. He was like, yo, dude, and all that kind of stuff. But he wasn't like,
I think movies to me are still, and like I said before, it's my default for all the Ninja Turtle stuff. But I think the movies were the best version of Michelangelo. Those first 3 movies, and even the third movie, you get a lot of powerful stuff with Mikey in it. Yeah, I think the movies really did right by him better than most other media for sure.
Yes, that's my favorite turtle. It really does depend on what version you're in. Like for example, for the Archie comics, I really liked I really like Donatello. Donatello is my favorite for the Archie comics. For the original cartoon, it was a tie between Raphael and Michelangelo because I like smart ass characters and I like Michelangelo because he was nice, chill, and cool. But as an adult revisiting the show, I like Donatello because that dude, I really like Donatello. I can't give any specifics, but dude was funny. For the 2003 show, I never fully got into it, so I can't say. For the movies, I didn't really have a favorite. I liked, all of them about the same. For the 2012 series, Leonardo. Leonardo was my favorite for that series. That's the only turtle series I could think of where Leonardo was legitimately my favorite because he had a good character progression and all of that other stuff. You see how he was struggling as being the leader, and I don't know. I just really, 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 really like Leonardo for that series. And anything past there, I couldn't really. Oh, 2007 movie.
I mean, that movie was basically just the Leonardo versus Raphael fight scene. The other characters
Yeah, it was. They were just.
they were barely there.
Yeah.
It was a weird. It was a weird.
Yeah, and it wasn't very memorable for me either. So, yeah,
It's
so like I
weird.
said, for Mirage, I liked Michelangelo.
Anytime I see the 2007 movie, I like it, but then I forget about it as soon as I'm done watching it. It's
I
such a
don't
weird
remember
movie.
what the plot was. That's how I felt when I saw
Oh,
it.
the 13 monsters and all that stuff, like Scooby Doo.
We already saw like 3 of them or so. The movie was so short. Like
Yeah,
it
yeah.
was.
And the whole point was, well, we have to sell toys, so there's going to be 13 monsters, so we could sell 13 more action figures. And then like they still only made like 6 of them or 7 of them. They didn't even make all of them. And then, like you said, only a couple of them were in the movie. It was just such a, again, that's what you have when you have somebody trying to make product instead of
Mm.
make a, you know, and you see it with a lot of blockbuster movies nowadays versus certain other ones. You could tell who's making a cinematic experience and who's making product, you
Yeah.
know. Um, and we saw it with the way Ninja Turtles movies have devolved because the original movie was a piece of cinema, and everything they've done since then really has been a product. And it's gotten worse with that. The newer ones are literally just to sell toys. And that's what
Yeah.
Mutant Mayhem was. They put all those characters in there. They stuffed it with mutant characters literally just to sell more action figures, and it worked. So that means they're going to keep doing stuff like that. And hey, whatever. They're making
You
money.
know, Ricky, that is an interesting thing though. When you think about it, you were bringing up the action figures thing. The first movie was like an independent film. It was kind of like it was a story they wanted to tell, and they wanted to adapt it with like passion and all the hurdles of trying to find a studio to even like make the movie for them and stuff. So I think in that particular aspect, I'm surprised though that Playmates didn't cash in, but still. That's probably why they didn't have action figures because that one wasn't made just to sell action figures. It was a story that needed to be told and
See, it's
stuff.
not how the cartoon was, but the cartoon's kind of made to sell
Yeah,
sell the action
yeah.
figures.
But
you
I
know,
was
with the
surprised
toys,
that
so.
despite that, or maybe Playmates just didn't expect the movie to be that big. I'm surprised it didn't cash in until the sequel. But that's why there weren't figures and things
I
made in
will say
advance.
this about the third movie. I did think those samurai turtles figures, those little really big ones, that I actually think those were pretty cool. Cause I said, of course, I didn't have any of this, but my cousin, when it came into the movie, he had one. He had a Leonardo one,
Mm.
and I always
My
thought,
favorite, my favorite in all iterations is always Leo because I'm usually partial to the leader character and also guys with swords. So I knew right away it was going to be him. I also end up being a huge Cam Clark fan, which as a kid you don't set out to notice those things, but over time you do. And then he became one of my favorite voice actors. So him being Leo in the cartoon show, but also Brian Tochi. It blew my mind when I found out he was Leonardo in the movies because I was a big Police Academy fan as a kid. And so he was in Police Academy 3, 4, and 5, and so when I heard Leonardo, I thought it was familiar, and then even seeing the name in the credits, but it didn't click for a long time. I was like, wait a minute, is that Brian Toshi? Oh my God, it's friggin' Tanaka from Police Academy or whatever the fuck his name was. So that was really cool. But yeah, I thought I thought he was like the emotional heart of the first movie. He was really him and Raph, but Raph mostly only anger, whereas Leo, you kind of got a full range of emotions. You see him goofing around, you see him be very serious, you see him be very angry, you see him be very upset and distressed, you see him very um, out of control at the very end of the movie. Like with Leo in the movie, you get the most well-rounded performance, I want to say, of any character in the movie because he literally gives you everything emotionally, right? So, um it's fortunate because he is my favorite character, so it's fortunate to watch the movie and see that he ends up being able to give all of the most emotional performances, like as far as balance wise. Like Raph gives you that seething anger, and Mikey gives you the lightheartedness, and Donnie is definitely got his moments as well. But yeah, Leo is very subtly like the main turtle of the first movie. Like it's Raph, but Leo is given as much attention, if not more. in its own way. It's just kind of off to the side a little bit, but if you pay attention, right? So, but yeah, I thought they did a great job with him in all the movies. Like I felt like that was pretty consistent. Like he was really well balanced in all three of them, and I feel like his character was pretty much played the same all the way around. They didn't ever like go off the rails with him. So yeah, that was pretty good stuff. And you know, as a fan, like I said, you definitely want to see your favorite character done right by. And I think the movies really, like I said, they're my favorite version of the Turtles for a lot of reasons. But one of those reasons would be that I think all four of them come off looking really good, and I
Mm.
think that's important. Like,
And
even,
Wendy had a good balance there too, compared to some of these other things, you know.
some of them have more to do than others, but you definitely enjoy watching all four of them, and you're never disappointed like when it switches to one of the ones that's not your favorite. You know, you're always just happy to see what's happening because the characters are so much fun to interact with. Like the way they play off of each other is so great. And I felt like all of them, like every character in the movie, like not just the turtles, I feel like every character was done to what I would call perfection. Like there's a reason why it's my default Ninja Turtles universe and aesthetic. Like if everything with Ninja Turtles was done like that first movie, I would never complain.
Oh, it's something that he just mentioned and that he just pointed out about Leo is that I liked about 2012 Leo. While that is my favorite version of Leo, it's because, like I said, the his emotions and all that other stuff and how it built him up. Because you have like he still acts like his teenage. Well, one thing I like about they did act more like teenagers in some ways, and I like how Leo acted like that teenager, but you saw how he matured throughout the series. I just love that about him, and that's my favorite version of Leo. But you know, he's more already established, you know, for the movie, so it's not like the same. So like with that it's sort of like they're starting with the you know, from scratch and blank slate, and they're working up, and then you know, and how he eventually does become the leader. He succeeds Splinter and all that stuff.
Now, one thing I really enjoyed as a Leo fan was right off the bat in the first movie, we do see more of him kind of, he's one of the guys. Like I was, you know, we all watched the cartoon, and unfortunately, in a lot of the cartoons, you know, the guys would be kind of cutting loose or having a good time, and it was usually Leo's role to be like, now guys, you know, we got to get serious, and you know,
Master Splinter would like that.
then in the movie, like he's right there with a joke or a quip or like a goofy dance move or whatever. You know, he's right there with it. So he's still the leader and the serious one, but only to a point, right? There's still uh there's a looseness about him in the movies and a sense of humor about him that doesn't really come through in a lot of the other versions, but it doesn't feel
Yeah.
forced. It's just it feels very natural, and it
Mhm.
really expands his ability to interact with the other characters as more than just like the stern big brother figure like the cartoons. Like I said, everybody in
Yeah.
those movies, you don't spend as much time with them across the movies as you do with the cartoons, but they somehow come across so much more fleshed out and three-dimensional in the movies.
I have to agree.
Mhm.
Like the personalities and everything, they're so much more real in the movies, and not just because it's live action. It's because of the voice acting, the body language. They just feel so much more real than they do in the cartoons and stuff.
Mm.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess we're gonna wrap it up with this one. We kind of went through most of our points,
Life
and
change, life changing stuff. I will say to wrap it up. I will say I am looking forward to seeing the second one in theaters for the anniversary release.
yeah,
Um, Happy that we got to see it for the first movie for the anniversary release. I wish it had been better advertised because I'm hearing various things, but I know a lot of them the showings were not well attended. Um, who knows why that is, but hopefully they continue to do well and do better because I feel like these movies deserve to be seen by a new audience and the old audience. I mean, it's fun for us, but people can take their kids and maybe expose them to something new and they can have a good time with it. and it can be, a moment. Maybe the kids don't care as much, but they might care for an afternoon, and sometimes that's enough. And yeah, I feel like these movies definitely have a place more than just on streaming or on Blu-ray. They're classics for a reason, and I think bringing them back for anniversary showings like this every 5 years, I think it's the least they can do. I hope it's a trend that continues. I'm looking forward to.
Maybe not the third movie. We may skip seeing the third movie. Yeah.
Like I
I
said,
would
I fell asleep on it as a kid. I probably fall asleep on it again as an adult.
I would still go see it if it came out in theaters. I didn't get to as a kid, so
Maybe half price.
I would like to. My wife apparently got to see it in theaters. I saw it. I rented it from the library. Is how I got to see it as a kid. I rented it from the library, and I liked it. I liked
And
it
you
enough
still
that
want your money back.
Oh yeah,
I,
we didn't have that one. Yeah, that was a rented one for us, the third movie.
I liked it, but I definitely felt like it was a step back. Like I said, it feels like episode 8 of a Netflix series. It doesn't feel like a movie that connects to the first two.
Mm.
There's a very strong disconnect, but on
Yeah.
the whole, all three of those movies were a big deal for me as a kid. They're very life-changing stuff. Without them, I would have probably jumped ship off of Ninja Turtles. I really don't connect with the newer stuff at all, but I'll always go back to that older stuff, whether it be a Tournament Fighters game, which we talked about. We did talk about that, right?
Yeah.
The podcast about that?
Yeah. The fighting
Yeah.
podcast. We got like millions of podcasts.
But we did do that one, yeah. Whether it was that helped me stay involved, the Archie comics helped me stay involved, the movies definitely did. Because, like I said, the first movie came out at a point in my childhood where I was kind of turning the corner into some more grounded, darker, sophisticated stuff. And the cartoon was what it was. I still liked it, but seeing something a little bit more grown up, a little bit more intense was definitely just what I was looking for at that point in my life. So it was definitely pivotal, seminal,
Yeah.
and I'm really glad that it still exists and persists. Maybe they might do something for the 40th anniversary. You know how sometimes they take movies and they'll like splice some of the deleted scenes back in? That'd be something to see. But in the meantime, we know they're doing that behind the scenes documentary, so that's something to look out for sure. Because the more of the movie I get, the better. That's how I feel about it.
You did see the third one too, Angelina, back then?
No, I didn't watch it. Not even
Yeah,
as a kid, not
you're
even as
you're
an adult.
you're probably better off not seeing it.
I own it, but I own it. It's
Hey,
on I own it on digital. Still have
It's
not
not.
seen it.
It's not that bad. It's just.
it had Tarzan boy.
It's like it's like a 90-minute episode of a television show. It's not that bad.
I'll have to watch it tomorrow. I probably will.
With a strong stomach.
There's a
Oh,
couple.
come on now.
I mean,
I'll watch it
the
on an
two
empty
things that
stomach.
the three things it had going against it is that number one, it just came out too late because the turtle stuff was really dying down around that time.
Yeah.
Number two, they didn't have the same people working with the costumes. So the costumes, you'll notice right away, the quality is very, very bad compared to the other two. And number three, just
The
like
story.
it's got nothing to do with nothing,
The story was just kind of just like I said, it seemed like it was a story, and it said, "Hey, let's just put the turtles into it." That's how it felt. That's how it felt, really.
Yeah, no Shredder, no Foot Clan, or
No.
anything
It's
else.
definitely a step back. It's a step back from the first two. But I definitely never feel like I wasted an afternoon when I see it. It's just there. It's not offensive in any way.
I've only seen the movie twice in my entire life. So
No, that was the one movie, for better for worse. That was the one movie that me, Johnny, and our parents, like the whole family, went to actually see it in theaters. Because that one, I guess, came out at a perfect time for us to see it in theaters. But
Even though the costumes themselves were cheaper, were not as aesthetically. One thing about them, though, is that the way they were more streamlined allowed them to do some things physically that were not possible with the originals. Like when they do the high foot kick thing, that was in and of itself kind of impressive on a technical level because they couldn't move like that in the first two movies. So, there were still some things going on under the hood that maybe they don't get enough credit for, because on the whole, it was a net loss, right? Everything was a step back for the most part, but there were still some advancements they were able to pull off. They just were not the right people necessarily to take on the whole project, but there were some innovations done. Story wise, it's kind of flat. It doesn't connect to anything, but
And you
you know,
couldn't really care, you really couldn't connect or care about what was going on. I mean, the main thing I will give the movie credit for, all the stuff with Mikey and the characters, and I think Mikey was really good in this movie. He was,
there were
I will give that. I really did like all of Mikey's little scenes and stuff for this one.
the Mikey and Mitsu thing,
Me too. Yeah.
and that to the point where she was originally supposed to be in Tournament Fighters, but then
Yeah.
the movie didn't do well, so they took her out of it and changed it to Asuka,
Mm-hmm.
which we infamously. But yeah, I mean, there's stuff going on.
Asuka.
It's not great, but it's not like horrible. People oversell how bad it is. It's not that bad. It's just not good compared to the first two, and two already wasn't good compared to the first one either. So, I mean, it is what it is. You can watch it, and there's stuff like that. I like to look at it a couple different ways and then just aggregate how I feel about it. There's the way of, well, here's how it is in a vacuum as its own thing. And then there's how it relates to being part of a series of other movies. And then I kind of find out how I feel in between those things, you know? So with that level, the third one is not a good sequel to one and two at all. And it definitely feels kind of out of place. And it's not as engaging as either of those two. But it's also, as a Ninja Turtles adventure, it's perfectly acceptable. It doesn't do
Okay,
any,
I'll give
doesn't
you
do
credit for that one. As a
it does.
standalone, it's fine. I guess as a standalone, it's kind of okay.
Yeah, like if it was a comic book miniseries or like a two-part episode of a cartoon show, the story would have gone over huge. People would love it. Like in a vacuum, people would love it. It's just it's Ninja Turtles 3 and we already got 1 and 2, which were so much better. You
Yeah.
know. It's not like Superman 4 where it's just objectively a piece of shit. But they too good. They did two good movies and then a kind of bad movie and then a huge piece of shit. Like it's not like that.
Yeah. Now, what I do want to say, guys, to wrap it up here, Ninja Turtle news, at least when it comes to the comics. I don't know if any of you have been reading the IDW comics based on the Saturday morning Ninja Turtles cartoon and everything. So this isn't necessarily about them, but it's kind of they're making their version of the TMNT Battle Nexus, but they're going full multiverse where different versions of Turtles are going to be facing off against each other. Now,
What that's about? Okay.
yeah. Now the main story is going to be the Turtles, I guess the regular IDW Turtles, I don't know, but they're going to be facing off against like the Mirage comic Shredder, Slash, and well, hold on, that's a bit later. The Mirage versions of Shredder, Slash, and Metalhead from the IDW and Ninjara is gonna be there, but it's kind of weird because Ninjara is completely redesigned. So I guess it's like an IDW version of Ninjara, you know. But
Well,
on the other
hey, but
side,
you got my attention.
yeah.
Big
So the
Ninja
other side
for
is that each
a
issue
couple
is gonna
big
have. Well, yeah, each issue is gonna have a mini backup story. So the interesting thing is we're gonna be seeing the 2012 Turtles go up against the 2003 Turtles. The
Oh,
80s Turtles going up against the Archie Comics Turtles is kind of
That's it.
interesting because the Archie Comics Turtles were kind of sort of the 80s Turtles before they went off their route and Raphael's gonna be
the
wearing
first
his all black outfit.
That he wore in the Archie comic, yeah.
Yes.
For
I
that Battle
remember
Nexus.
as a kid,
Yeah.
the first like 4 or 5 issues were right from the cartoon show, and then they took a hard left turn.
I
Yeah.
like that. That's why I like the
Oh,
Archie
yeah.
comics because it took that turn.
Yeah. So they're also gonna have hold on, we got two more, and I think the best for last because it kind of correlates with what we're talking about today. They're gonna have the this is weird though. I guess they ran out of combinations, but the original Mirage Turtles are gonna be fighting off against the Rise of the TMNT Turtles. But then the wacky one is the 90s movie Turtles are going to be going up against the Mutant Mayhem Turtles.
Oh my
While
god.
at first I didn't understand why, but now it makes sense to me. The first movie incarnation going up against the most recent movie incarnation. So that's going to be an interesting series. I think it starts in November. So I'm kind of curious how all that plays out. And of course,
All I
I'm
know
buying
is for
every.
that one. All I know is for that one. Them 92 better kick that buzz. That's all I'm saying.
Oh boy.
I
I'm
know.
curious now. I hadn't heard about all that, but now you
Yeah,
got me
it's
curious.
just coming down the pipeline.
Yeah, and I remember I was interested with the Archie comic, the Archie Turtles versus the 1987 Turtles, when they were kind of based off of the.
Yeah, and the thing is, like the art styles, they're all drawn as close as they possibly can to the art styles to really give you that vibe. You know what I mean?
Like the
So that's pretty cool.
Ken Matroni kind of thing where they had the line down the middle of the beak and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was a huge fan of how they did that as well. Because again, and I'll say this just like the movie, right? The Archie books felt like a little bit more grown up version of the Turtles as well. Like even though they censored it, there was a lot of cursing happening. There was like implied nudity. They would tackle more grown up themes. Characters would die. It was heavier stuff. I mean, and then infamously there was the all the mutanimals getting gunned down.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so the Archie books definitely went into some heavy stuff. And
Michelangelo being tortured by the government.
oh man, all that, you
That
know, he was,
still hurts me to this day.
so it was
And he was
definitely
my other favorite for the Archie. Donnie and Mikey, they were my two. They were my favorites for Archie.
it was another case where the material felt like it was aging up, growing up along with me, you know? So
Mhm.
it felt less juvenile than the cartoons. And so having the movie and the Archie comics to enjoy definitely kept me as a fan longer than I might have been otherwise. Because looking back on it now, it's a little bit tame, but back then for a kid, I mean, they got complaints in the letters pages. People were like, I think this is a little too grown up for kids and everything, but they stuck to their guns, which they did later on with the Sonic comics too. There was a lot of stuff going on that people said maybe wasn't appropriate or whatever, but they were like, oh, you don't have to read it. So I definitely give him credit for that. Archie was willing to let their creators get away with a lot on their licensed books, a surprising amount. Like, you wouldn't necessarily expect to pick up a Ninja Turtles comic back in 1991 or two and see characters getting blown up or shot to death or tortured or blinded or whatever, but that's what you got. But I was all about it at that point. I was like 9, 10, 11, and I was like, let's do this. It felt real to me. It felt normal. It felt like a natural extension of where the story would go. You know what I mean? Didn't bother me, but of course it pissed off the parents. Mom and dad. My parents didn't care, but other people's parents.
Yeah, my parents would have been.
I
Would have
mean,
been not
our
fussed with that
parents
too.
didn't really. I mean, they just know about the comics. They had no idea what the material was. If they've been
And I know for a fact
wrapping
my
the jar
parents-
going all out for the whole issue, and they wouldn't know. They're just hey, they're buying these shorter comics, whatever.
Anyway, my parents wouldn't have paid much attention to that either. I mean, because like I said, even with some of the shows that I would watch, like I think it was more so disrespectful characters in certain situations they didn't like. Now, more so my mother, but my dad was more lenient with the stuff that I watched, and that was even much to my mother's annoyance.
Yeah.
But
Uh,
yeah, I just
Yeah, like stuff like that my mom wouldn't like. Like if somebody was make a smart ass comment or whatever, she's like, "Oh, now I see where you get it from." That would be like one of the things she wouldn't like, but not so much other things like that.
I
But
mean,
yeah,
my parents were like, they didn't, my mother could not understand why parents were upset about the whole Mortal Kombat stuff. She was saying, it's not real. Why are these parents upset about it? Because she used to
my
let me play.
my dad loved that movie. He didn't necessarily think anything of the games, but he loved the movie. He thought the
No,
movie
she
was
was
cool.
talking about the game. No, she was talking about the actual games because because the parents were upset. They said the game too violent for the kids, and my mother was saying it's kind of absurd that anybody would take it seriously enough to get upset. So that was like her mindset because she had no problem with me playing them.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, our dad would just stick to, reading paper, the newspaper, watching the news. He didn't really whatever. Mom would watch some of the shows with us, so she would know. But the thing is, there was nothing really, objectively bad, So she'd be watching the Turtles with us and the Batman animated series and whatever else. But, they didn't have anything that would be like bad, so whatever. But she was
My,
more.
my my mom got a kick out of the theme song, and she used to make me sing it for family members.
Oh God. Now, one thing I remember that was funny was we were in Mexico during that time of our lives. Beavis and Butthead made their way to Mexico, and at least for the original run, because I think after reruns they did dub it in Spanish. But for the original run, it was English with Spanish subtitles. But my dad knew English. Our dad, Johnny and I's dad, our father knew English. And I'm saying my dad as if Johnny's down the room, but you know what I mean, our dad. So for whatever reason, all of us were watching Beavis and Butthead, and it was the one episode where like they were doing the things where they were like finding the lost golf balls and just sending them right back to
Yeah.
their owners or whatever. So they're
Yeah.
sending the balls to Mr. Garrison, whatever the fuck his name is, the Proto Hank Hill. And
Anderson.
it's like these balls look kind of familiar, and it's like, well, a lot of balls look alike, sir. And people said, yeah, I got dudes that are identical and all that. And my dad was like, oh, that asshole. And my mom's like, well, what do you say? What do you say? I'll tell you later, and all that.
My
But I
mom
remember that exchange between them. That was funny.
my mom hated Beavis and Butthead, but my dad thought they were funny. I
my
remember one time-
mom did too. She hated it too. And
Our
that's why I
mom
watched
bought us Beavis and Butthead shirts back then because she just knew that we liked the characters, like whatever.
My mom hated that show too. She didn't like me watching it, so that's why I watched it.
When it first came out, the three of us watched a couple of the episodes together. I remember one night watching it together, the three of us eating Chinese food, eating wonton soup, my favorite, and we were sitting in the living room. And it was one of the first episodes to come out. And my mom, every time they made like any kind of joke, she would just groan and roll her eyes. We were like, this is so fucking stupid. And then like, at the end of it, she's like, she looked at my dad and she's like, can you believe this is what your son watches? And my dad just looked at her and went, and I just started cracking up. He wasn't really known for that kind of sense of humor, but that was pretty funny. So he got it. He got what it was, but
Yeah,
to her, crass and goofy. But
a Christmas.
Yeah. So, anyways, guys, before it becomes the Views the Bud podcast, we're kind of signing off for now, and we'll see what happens.
to wrap it up, I'll just say this: I really think that the best thing about I think the Ninja Turtles 1990 movie, and why I'm glad they released it for the 35th anniversary. I can't wait for the 40th anniversary and beyond. But I think what really makes it resonate to this day is the fact that it represents everything good about the characters and the franchise and what it is really at its best. And why, to me, a lot of the newest material doesn't really work. There's a superficiality to the newest stuff where it's just about the humor and the gross out humor and the corny jokes and everything. Whereas the movie especially gets into all the themes that the franchise was created to represent, right? You've got, the themes about family, about being an outsider, trying to fit in, finding your place within a family or a group or in society, deciding who you're going to be as you get older, what kind of person you're going to be. There's a lot going on in Ninja Turtles that people don't really give the franchise a lot of credit for. You hear it all the time. People are like, "Oh, how seriously can you really take it? It's a bunch of turtles and their and the rat that they live with in the sewer. They eat pizza. They do kung fu. It's stupid. It can be stupid. Yeah, it can be stupid, and a lot of times it is stupid. But it doesn't have to be stupid. And the movie really illustrates how good it really is when you take it seriously and you just take it as it is and you don't try to make fun of it and you try to elevate it and you just normalize it. Like, this is what it is. And that's the best thing about that first movie is it plays everything totally straight. It doesn't try to take the piss out of the premise. Yeah, it's absurd, right? But you just go with it. And I think it works to the movie's benefit. And because of that, you get those emotional moments. The comedic moments hit harder because it's a more grounded situation. So when it's absurd, it's more funny than stupid. Um,
Mm.
you get all those emotional moments like Leo and Raph, or the guys in Splinter, April and Casey, Danny and his father. Like there's just a real sincerity to it. And I think that's what's missing from a lot of the newest material, because the newest material refuses to take any of it seriously at all. It's like the point is to make fun of it. And as I've said many times in many different places, I can't stand that. I really can't stand when they take any property, any franchise, and they're like, look how stupid this is, and look how stupid you are for liking it. I really don't like when they do that. And that's what they do now with Ninja Turtles. Whereas this movie shows you this is what's great about it. And this is why it's cool to like it. And I feel like if all the stuff was presented with the aesthetic of that first movie and took it as seriously and as grounded and with the same emotion between characters, I feel like Ninja Turtles would always be cool. And it would be more than just a thing to sell toys or whatever it is now. I think it would legitimately always be cool. And it would be cool to like them. There'd be no reason not to like them. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, and that's the thing I like about the Turtles. I like it when the comedy kind of lies in the fact that it's played super straight and it's super serious, but it's just that it's the fact that it's a human-sized turtle doing the stuff and having the things like kind of make that funny, but without, like you said, without just doping it down and making it like an absolute kids thing that's just for dumb kids or whatever.
Yeah, like why does April have to puke all the time in the new one? Like, what's that
Yeah,
about?
I don't. Yeah, that's one of the things she does in the new and Mutant Mayhem and all that. It's just okay. So, anyways,
Like
guys,
that's
before we go,
funny now, right?
yeah, that's the thing. I don't like. I know people like gross out humor, but I don't like gross out humor in things that are not known for gross out humor and now having it. Like if you watch Beavis and Butthead or Ren Stimpy stuff, I mean, you know what you're getting into. But if it's something like Turtles or even Looney Tunes that was never really known for gross out humor, don't add that shit now. You know what I mean? Like that new I don't know
People
what it
can
was
say,
called.
oh,
Those Looney Tunes, the Planet Stood Still. Some it was a movie with Daffy Duck and Porky Pig, and from the trailer they had stuff that implied that there's like flatulent humor and stuff. It's like that's the Looney Tunes never had that kind of humor. You know what I
never
mean?
like it was never like that. People can say, oh, well, Ninja Turtles was always silly. It was never like that. Give me a fucking break.
Yeah. So, anyways, guys, we're gonna wrap it up for here. We'll see what happens with the turtles and see any other podcast we might do down the line. Because, unless we all read the comics or anything like that, or whenever there's the second and the anniversary for Secret of the Ooze, we might all get back together and we get to see that one
Not only
and things
that,
like
not only
that.
that,
Or if some
not
new
only
Ninja
that,
Turtles video game comes out that we all talk about, or maybe we could do maybe a podcast on that. We maybe do one on all the
well,
games that
say
we've liked or something.
there's something coming out real soon that kind of relates to one of the last podcasts we did a couple of years ago before I got real busy. We kind of left the Mortal Kombat gimmick hanging, and there's a certain collection coming out soon.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't think we got into Deadly Alliance or Armageddon or any of those games. So
Yeah,
we might
we
pick
we
that.
didn't get to play those too much, so I mean that's gonna be mostly you guys. I'm gonna be nodding and smiling for that one for
You
those
play it.
scenes,
What the
anyways.
hell? Those games are great, brother. But you
Yeah,
didn't
I know.
play
I
it.
just never had the chance. I got Armageddon though. I just never had the chance to get. I didn't. We didn't get the console, the Xbox 360 till a bit later. So like around that time, Armageddon was the new thing. So I bought that one. But anyways, guys, yeah, we'll wrap it up here and we'll see. I mean, because I think Angelina's played like TMNT Shredder's Revenge, and you probably played other Turtle games inside that one. We could maybe do a podcast about the games in general, just our favorites and stuff for some
Well, that's gonna be a short list for me.
and all that. But anyways, guys, yeah, it's Mark Rodriguez signing off here.
This is Juvie Champs on the Juvie. See you guys later. You can call me Wendy. All I gotta say is cowabunga or bitchin'.
I've always liked pitching, and that would. Then the rest of you guys.
You know.
Oh, this is Angelina.
And that brings us to signing off the one and only God of Thunder, Lord of Rock and Roll, still reigning and defending RCW American Champion, 1 year and counting. Icon of old school, happy to be here. We'll see you real soon again on the podcast. Rikki Roxx signing off, and that leaves only the man himself. Play him off, Johnny. Play him off, brother.
Hey, Rodriguez.
Yep.
See you next time, guys.
See you
Yep,
next
see you
time,
next
guys.
time.
Thanks for having us. Great time.
And Cowabunga.
Cowabunga!
Cowabunga.
Piece of power.
Oh, that's a good way to end it. Why don't we all end up in saying Cowabunga at the same time? Maybe just wrap it up there. So 3, 2, 1.
Cowabunga.
Oh.
There we go. See you next time, guys.
Excellent. All right.
TRTS.